Hi and welcome. You've joined us on the My Local Aggregation webinar. This is one in the series that occurs every Wednesday afternoon at 2 p.m. And today's topic is persistence, plateaus and 40 years of learning. In just a moment, I'm going to be introducing you to Rosco, as he's known to most of you in the industry, Ross Laurenson. He's our National Sales Manager here at My Local Aggregation. For those of you that are joining us for the very first time today, just a reminder that this webinar is eligible for one CPD point. So you just need to enter that into your MFAA or FBAA CPD register. So a little bit about Rosco. Rosco's been in the industry for close to 40 years. He has spanned over a wide variety of different types of finance, starting with car finance, moving to Aussie home loans for mortgages. He had a yellow brick road office. He also had his own brokerage for a number of years, and in those businesses he was highly successful and had back-to-back year-on-year awards in many categories, including sales, customer service and insurance. So today's discussion for the next hour or so is going to be really unearthing from Rosco some of the insights and some of the examples of what made him so successful decade after decade. So here he is. Welcome to you, Rosco.
It sounds terrible, doesn't it? 40 years?
40 years,
and then
yes.
You go decade after decade.
Decade after decade.
Gosh. So it seems like yesterday I got my first job at Avco Finance in Oakland. And here we are today. So it was in 1978. And so next year is 2018. So as my father would say, I'm in my 40th year.
You are in your 40th. So what are some of the highlights in your career and some of the insights that you'd like to share?
Well, I think one of the highlights is that you end up working in this industry is amazing because you're actually helping people achieve their goals. In actual fact, that was one of my catchphrases. People used to always say to me, "So what do you do for a living?" Could you imagine then turning around and saying to those people, "Oh, I'm a mortgage broker and my job's to find you the cheapest rate"? No, that's a no-no. So I used to say to people, my catchphrase was that my job is that I help people fulfil their dreams.
Exactly. Yeah.
Pretty simple. And look, let's face it, that's what most of us do in the industry is we help people achieve their goals or set them out on the road to achieving their goals. So that's probably the most important aspect of the job is actually helping people. And then those people do literally become your friends.
Yes.
And then their immediate family and their subsequent children all become your friends and you constantly look after them. So I get phone calls now saying, "Hi, I'm Mary's daughter." They don't even go the last name now, they just go, "Oh, hi, I'm Mary's daughter," and I'm instantly supposed to remember all the Marys. But that's okay, that's good.
Well, I think in all of our conversations that we've had, the theme that runs throughout those businesses that you've owned and companies that you've worked for is really very much relationship is key for you, isn't it?
Oh, look, I speak to a lot of potential brokers and the first thing they tell me is, "Oh, I don't think I'll be very good because I don't know much about finance."
Right.
So I immediately explain to them that 95% of all the people we will ever speak to will invariably know less than we do. So it's all about building relationships. So if you, how do I put this? So if you enter someone's lounge room, that is immediately an invitation for you to become their friend. And they will tell you things because you're asking in such a manner that are relevant to what they're trying to achieve. So very important that before you try and do anything, you've got to build a relationship with your client. You've got to demonstrate you understand what your client's trying to achieve, and then, and only then, can you then move to the next level of actually trying to present
Yes.
a solution to them. So, and look, one of the things that, 30 years ago when I started selling mortgages, my clients expected me to have an answer instantaneously whilst I was sitting in the lounge room. Nowadays, with the NCCP and the fact finders and the preliminary assessments and the credit proposals and all the rest of the thing, it's actually made it a lot easier to be a broker because you do not have to know the
solution straight
instantaneous.
away.
No, you can go away and actually do the research and present accordingly.
Yeah.
So I just found number one is relationship, and number two is knowledge.
Yes.
So I'm going to mock myself now because I actually said you only have to know more than your client, but you've got to work on your knowledge. So when you first get into the industry, and say most brokers in that first 2 to 3 years, they're fairly limited in their, what they actually know and present.
Yes.
So if you get a lead, this is a classic example, so if you get a lead and you speak to the client and the client goes, I need to raise $2 million to buy a Subway franchise. If you don't know anything about providing finance for a Subway franchise, don't be delusional and kid yourself, or more importantly, kid your client and or the referrer that you actually know what you're doing. So it's more a matter of knowledge is not just what you do know, it's also being capable of understanding what you don't know.
Sure.
Then you go and find and surround yourself with experts in those areas that you don't know. So classic example is you're part of ABC aggregation. So you will find that there'll be someone within that group that does commercial lending, equipment leasing, personal loans, reverse mortgages, non-conforming. So those areas, I think you build a base around. So whilst you're a solo operator operating out of home, you can still build a network of people that you work with.
Yeah, and that's really interesting approach to that, Ross, because these days with the margins getting tighter in regards to brokers' commissions, everybody's talking about diversification.
I hate that word.
I know you hate that word, and that you need to add all of these other strings to your bow so that you can be able to recommend all of these other services to clients. But it's very difficult to stay on top and have the skills to be able to cover those bases.
Well, look, it's like anything. You can go to a seminar and learn 10 different marketing strategies. So if you go back to your home office and then try and implement all 10, I'm telling you, you'll stuff them all up.
Sure.
So you need to look holistically at your business. So please, we've all been to PD days where everyone talks about you need to diversify. Well, yes, but I don't like that word. So I've come up with a thing I call the Divergence Platform program. And that is, I want to pick the areas that interest me, that I'm happy with. So if I don't want to refer financial planning, don't do it. But find other methods to increase your cash flow.
Yeah.
And one of the things we'll talk about a little bit later on is how to identify those opportunities within what we have to do on a daily basis when we are talking to a client.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
I know you're very passionate about, in all the businesses you had, you're very passionate about local area marketing
absolutely.
campaigns.
Yep.
And one story that really sticks out for me, because I know a lot of brokers say, look, Steph, I tried to sponsor my local club. I got involved with the local BNI network or whatever it was, and it just didn't work for me. And could you share your story about what you did with your footy club?
Well, look, first up, the question is, on everyone's lips, is, okay, well, how much money do I spend on marketing? Okay, so we need to drill back. Now, we're 2 weeks away, aren't we, roughly, from FY18?
We are.
So I would hope that every broker in the next 2 weeks, if they haven't done so already, is going to prepare a business plan. Now, that doesn't mean you've got to go and buy a business plan software off the shelf or any of that nonsense. So I don't care about SWOT analysis and all those sort of things. What I do want to know is every broker who's running a business should be able to clearly identify what's going to happen in 2018. So I'll give you a classic example. So a broker has earned $70,000 in the past 12 months. So he now or she now might go, I next year would like to earn an additional $30,000. So next year I want to earn $100,000. So that's approximately about a 40% increase.
Yep.
Okay, so then the $64 million question is, or in this case the $30,000 question is, so what are you going to do to accomplish an increase in your revenue flow by 40%?
Write more loans?
Well, yeah, but if every broker out there wants to increase his loan or his or her loan portfolio by 40%, it's not going to happen. So you do then have to look at the client and work out what additional revenue can I generate with this particular client. So that's what's got to happen. So you're never going to increase your loan portfolio by 40%. You might increase it by 20. Therefore, you've got to increase your revenue stream by involving other areas. And that's what I call that divergence program, is I want to build my business. It's my business. At the end of the day, it's ABC Home Loans, Main Street, suburban Australia. That's my business. So I need to therefore be very, very, very select in the areas that I want to. So I don't want to be dictated to. I don't want to be told, oh, you must sell this or you must sell that or you must sell this. No, just add value to your clients in areas that you're comfortable with.
Yep.
So if you don't like selling or recommending off the plan, don't do it. Because yes, I know you might have heard it at a seminar, but if it's not part of your DNA to do that, then why are you putting that proposal to your clients when you don't even know yourself? You don't even believe in it.
It's hard to come from a place of passion.
Yeah. So let's go back then to your original question. Okay, so I want to go from 70,000 to 30,000. I've now created a great business plan. So boys and girls, this is what I recommend you do. 7.5% of what you propose is going to be your revenue stream next year is now your marketing budget. So I'm going to generate, after my outgoings, I'm going to generate $100,000 in profit this year. Therefore, 7.5% of that 100,000 is now my marketing budget. So you've now got $7,500 to put into marketing.
That's right.
Okay, so you don't have to think twice now. But the next step then is, okay, I've got $7,500, that's fantastic. Now what's my spend and how do I go to market with that? Now, back in my day, I used to put ads in the local paper. I'd put an ad in the yellow pages, do all those 1980s type thing, which don't work today. So you've got to find other platforms. So going back to, I want to be a broker in Main Street suburbia, I highly recommend that particular broker focuses on his PMA, his prime market area. So in my case, my business was in Frankston.
Yep.
So that became my core business. So I knew that there were 135,000 residents within the greater city of Frankston. Ample opportunities.
Yep.
So why would I want to encourage driving to Ballarat or to Geelong or to Werribee to do one deal when I can actually work within the community in which I'm operating? So become the mayor or the mayoress of your community. So yes, get involved in local B&I groups, local sporting groups, etc. However, one of the areas that I see with a lot of brokers is they make a very fatal mistake, and that is that someone rings them, they get excited and they sign up to sponsor the local Little Aths. They pay their $1,000 and they get a sign on the fence.
Yep.
And then at the end of the 12 months, I speak to them and go, so how did that go for you? And they go, no, waste of time.
Yep.
I didn't get any business. So I asked the question, well, how many times did you actually go to the event? Oh, no, I didn't go because I was told that my sign on the fence would
Make the phone ring.
Would make the phone ring. Well, guess what? It doesn't. So you've got to actually, the next part of what I am very big on is all about you being representative within your area. So it's representational economy. So if those people do not know who you are, they will not do business with you.
Yeah.
So you need to go down to Little Aths. You need to ask, can I present trophies and can I do this and can I do that? Can I run the sausage sizzle? Can I? Eventually people will get to know you. They'll trust you and then they will give you business. It's pretty simple. So what I did when I had my Yellow Brick Road shop is I did a whole range of activities with a local football club. And I won't bore everyone with the idiosyncrasies of it, but it made it vital that for the next 3 years I wanted to be the major sponsor. I wanted my brand on the back of the shirts. I wanted the parents to peg up my shirt every day when they washed it and my brand be hitting them in the face. Now, in the first year, I did not write one loan. Not one. So thank goodness that I had signed a 3-year agreement. But I was down there every Sunday at 9 o'clock doing the under-9s egg and bacon rolls. I had my apron on. My wife and daughter were in the canteen wearing their aprons. Everyone in the canteen had my apron on. But what it clearly identified is that unless people know you and trust you, they will not give you any business.
Sure.
So by that constant in their face, I never once tried to say, how are you off for home loans? But they got to know me. So in year number 2, we did 24 loans.
Wow.
But in year number 3, we did just under 90 loans. Because by that stage, I was just Rosco, part of the club.
Yes.
Okay, so the other thing is don't go and sponsor something that you don't have an interest in.
Yep.
Because guess what? You won't go. And then if you don't go, you won't get any traction with the people. And they will soon realise you're only there for the dollar. You're only there for the referrals. So don't get involved.
That's a very good point. You know, it's hard to build rapport if you're going to footy games.
Yep.
If you can't talk about the game.
Correct.
If you don't have a genuine interest. You know, that's the common interest there, isn't it? Being able to have that discussion about what's happening. Yeah,
100%. So one of the things that I'm very big on and that I've learnt in the last 40 years is I'm the brand, me. Okay. So I need to continually deliver my brand to market. So Monday to Friday, 9 to 5, wear the suit.
Yep.
Every day, please. Right? Just because you're self-employed or you're sitting in your lounge room at home running your business, put your suit on. It's like I'm going to work now. Emotionally, I'm focusing on my work. But if I make an appointment to see Mrs. Jones at 7 o'clock tonight, I don't want to run the risk of upsetting her or her husband or making them feel uncomfortable. So I'm not going to arrive in a suit. But being a male, men have no idea what to dress. They don't know what to wear. So black polo shirt, your brand, whatever it may be. If you haven't got a logo, find someone to help you create a logo. Black polo shirt, black slacks, black shoes. So those black slacks, they can be dark, a black pair of jeans or whatever. But just make sure that when you go to that appointment, so any evening appointment or any weekend appointment, I wore my uniform. So if I did arrive at their house at 8 o'clock and they're sitting in their lounge room still in their 9 to 5 gear, they're not going to judge me because they're just going to assume that this is the uniform that my company wants me to wear.
Yep.
Does that make sense?
Of course, yeah.
So that's pretty important that you present yourself 24/7 in your uniforms.
Yes.
Yeah.
So as a part of that personal brand and your strong belief about building relationships.
Yep.
How did that translate for you when you were getting word of mouth referrals, whether that was from your current customers or else other businesses in the area? How did you make that work for you?
Look, I was fairly lucky, and that is I'm fairly shy and reserved.
You are.
So, I really struggled to get out. But I call it my go out the door and turn left strategy. So that is, if you have nothing on, I don't mean not got your uniform on, but if you look in your diary and you've got a 2 hour of nothing, jump in your car and go somewhere. So what I did in the Frankston community is I had 4 coffee shops, and I made sure that every single morning I rotated the coffee shops, and I went and bought a coffee at every coffee shop, and I was always either in my uniform or in my suit, and I always had a name badge. Okay. So that then gave me, I got to know people. Secondly, then I would just pop my head into businesses and go hello.
Yep.
So I was very lucky because between Frankston and Dandenong is a very high density, light commercial, light industrial area. So I park my car in one street and I just walk up, cross the road, walk back and get back in my car. And I would just go in and say hello. So I would never walk in there and go, hi, I'm Rosco, how are you off for home loans? Because they're going to tell me they're pretty right.
So what would you typically say?
I just introduce myself. So I'm a small businessman. I run a financial services business within the community. Just sort of pop my head in and say hello. Now, every small business gets an annual renewal notice for their business insurance.
Yep.
So all that I used to do is go, when's your business insurance due for renewal? And just wondering if I could pop back a month or so beforehand, get a copy of your renewal notice and see if I can't save you any money.
Sure.
Now, a lot of people will go, well, wait a minute, you're a mortgage broker. No, I want to sell a whole myriad of products to my database. But I know that when I push in the front door, if I say to the principal of the business or the staff, do you want me to look at your home loans? They're going to say, no, not really.
Yeah.
So what I used to do then was I'd go away. Now, a lot of people go, well, what if you can't beat the current quote? I used to love that because then I could ring the client and go, you're a very smart businessman. I've tried more than one occasion to better the quote you've got. You're a hard taskmaster, that's a fantastic quote. Proceed with confidence.
Yes.
So you're not diluting yourself, you're actually giving them a pat on the back. But the reverse is, what if I can save them $1,500 or $2,000? And that was my little segue in. So did I sell a lot of insurance? No, not really, because that's not my core focus. It was building relationships, being seen as the go-to person. So I used to coach my people to do those sort of things.
Yeah.
And then real estate agents, a lot of brokers immediately, they think, oh, I've got to go and knock on the door and walk in and demand to speak to a salesperson. Well, in a lot of real estate agencies, they struggle to sell maybe half a dozen homes in a month. However, behind that front door, behind the gatekeeper, is a rental department. They might manage 500 properties.
Yep.
So that could be technically 500 landlords who are all asking themselves individually the question, am I in a position to go again? What would happen if I sold one?
Have I got the best rate?
Correct. So everyone focuses on the salesperson selling today, not realising there's this massive pool of database just sitting within a real estate agent.
Yep.
Yeah. So they're the little things that are very simple to do. So you don't have to run around all day. Just allocate an hour or 2 hours per week in certain activities.
Yes.
Yeah.
What about for those, clients? What's your view on either rewarding clients that refer you?
Great question.
Or commissions? Did you split commissions?
I built very strong rapport with my real estate agents. I'll go through during another session on how to really build a strong relationship with a real estate agent. But predominantly, the average commission on a transaction might be $12,000 to $15,000.
Yes.
For the agent.
Sure.
So if I helped him sell a house or refer a house, I'm not going to ask him for any money. If that makes any sense.
Of course. Yeah.
So consequently, I'm not going to offer him any money.
Yep.
If that makes any sense.
Yeah.
Because I'm about, let's build a genuine relationship where yin and yang, I'll help you and you help me, and we'll work together.
Yes.
And I'd love the opportunity to come back and discuss that further. But they're the sort of things. However, there is one area that a lot of people, you know what assuming does? So
yes.
we go out into business and we tell everybody, guess what, I'm now a mortgage broker. And all our family and friends say that's fantastic. And we sort of say, hopefully I can rely on you to refer me business. And 6 months later we realise they've referred us nothing. Pretty difficult then to pick the phone up and ask them, hey, you promised me you'd refer me, what's going on?
Yep.
What a lot of brokers don't understand is those people in some way actually want to be rewarded. They just don't want to tell you.
Yep.
So again, one of the things I used to say is, you and I having a cup of coffee and I go, Steph, hopefully I can rely on your support, your family and friends, anyone that you know, you might be able to refer them on to me. So instead of you just nodding, I then go, oh, and by the way, the group that I'm involved with, they allocate 2 gold class tickets for every successful referral. So it's not coming out of my pocket, they just allocate it. So I'm assuming you wouldn't mind getting 2 gold class tickets.
Fantastic.
Guess what? In 6 months, you've referred.
Yep.
And we don't even have to have that awkward conversation. So look, I'm not a big one for cutting up the pie. I know there's a lot of people out there who will argue the toss with me, but based on 40 years, I've never written many cheques. However, if need be, I might say to the Steph of the world, you're starting to refer to me, I might go, listen, if you can give me 5 referrals this year, I can actually send you and your husband for a night at Crown.
Yes.
Or something of that nature.
Fantastic.
So you give them so all of a sudden Steph now becomes an advocate of my business.
Exactly. And it's a very different thing. When you've had an experience, a night out to the movies or wherever that is, you're excited by that experience. You haven't received a cash payment and you'll come away from that. It's not tacky and it's a nice conversation you have with your buddies.
Correct.
Look what
And look, a lot of us who have been to gold class, and if you have been to gold class, it's really hard to go back to normal.
Yep.
Just understand there's a lot of people out there who've never been to gold class, or it's a really special treat. So reward them accordingly, and then they will ring you afterwards and say, we had the greatest time in the world last night, we saw the best film. Hey, listen, how do I get another one of those? Does that program go, you just have to say to them, well, it's never ending.
Yep.
Every time you send me someone that actually proceeds, the group will send you the tickets. Keep blaming the group. No one will ever ask you who the group is.
Sure.
They don't.
No.
They don't want to know. They just know the group is sending me some theatre tickets, and fantastic.
Yeah.
And I don't know what gold class tickets cost now, but they're probably $90 or something for 2 tickets.
Yep.
So it's not like you're spending more than $300 and then getting into trouble with secret commissions and all those sorts of things.
Correct.
So, yeah.
Rosco, you've coached and mentored dozens and dozens of brokers over the years.
Yes.
And I know that, there's many brokers that get to a certain level, 1 million, 2 million per month.
Yes.
where they feel from a time management point of view, they've tapped into everything they know in regards to marketing.
Yep.
And they sort of hit a plateau and they're looking for
unfortunately happens
what do they do next. So what are your thoughts for those brokers listening to us today?
Gary Ablett Senior and Gary Ablett Junior are two of the best footballers who ever played the game. They both had coaches. A lot of mortgage brokers go into this business and think that any money they spend in furthering their knowledge or education is an expense.
Yes.
Without realising it's actually an investment. So I've got friends of mine that have been broking now for 15 years. If they get out of bed tomorrow, it doesn't matter because they've got this trail book affording them an exceptionally great lifestyle. So at some point you have to invest in yourself. So that being said it's very easy to do a few little tweaks to get a $1.5 million broker and turn them into a $3 million broker because it's all about the 1%ers.
Yep.
It's just the little things they've got to do better that'll help them increase their volume. So you have personally when I coached, I have a look at their conversion rate from lead to application and what's actually happening in that lounge room. And it could be a simple thing like you've made a decision that you've got an office, so therefore you're going to make your clients come to you. I've heard brokers say, there's no way I'm going to their house.
Right.
So all of a sudden now you're ostracising a certain percentage of your clients without you even realising.
Yeah.
Because if they've got young children, they've then got to find a babysitter to drop the kids off, gather their stuff, come to you at a time that you've dictated is available.
Yes.
Whereas what I used to do is I'd give them the opportunity. And then the funny thing is, I originally started my mortgage business at Aussie Home Loans. So I sat in lounge rooms. And then at Home Loans by the Bay, I sat in lounge rooms.
Yeah.
And at Yellow Brick Road, I constantly sat in lounge rooms.
Yes.
Very few appointments in the office. But another colleague of mine who worked with me in Yellow Brick Road never went out.
Right.
So yin and yang, but you've got to have some level of flexibility. So if I knew they had a 5-year-old and a 6-year-old, I would immediately say, what time do you normally put your kids to bed?
Yep.
So because they don't want me to come during the time when that's when they want to put their children to bed. But because I've asked the question there now, and I've already got a tick because I'm at least showing some level of empathy regarding their particular situation. And then the first thing that I would do is when I go into a house is I have immediately look around.
Yes.
Because whatever turns those people on is usually on display. And I always remember one of the best loans I ever did was I walked in, and this was back in the day when St Kilda hadn't won a game for the whole year. And this chap had above the fireplace a St Kilda jumper framed. So I thought, well, that's amazing. I can't imagine my wife ever allowing me to have any football memorabilia in a lounge room. So I asked the question, and he just raved on about his massive love for the St Kilda Football Club and that his wife had organised it for his 40th birthday. So it was pretty big.
Sure.
So I made a mental note, and then for whatever reason, 2 weeks later, St Kilda won a game. So I went to a sporting shop, bought a football, went down to the St Kilda Football Club, walked in the front door and just asked the lady behind the jump, are there any players who may be able to sign a football?
Yep.
Well, I've got 12, 13 signatures.
Fantastic.
So I then went back to the client, not about, hey, what are you going to do about that loan we were talking about, but I would just go, congratulations, well done.
Your team's won.
Your team's won. Yeah. Now, I ended up writing, and that was back in my Aussie days, so I wasn't earning a lot of money out of a deal. But I ended up, as for that one activity, I wrote 17 loans.
Wow. And
I always remember it because they referred and then they referred. It became, oh, you're the bloke who gave Johnny the football. So sometimes you need to keep an eye on what you're walking into.
Yes.
See the cars in the driveway. When you walk into their house, have a look. One of the greatest little things that I used to look for is I'd have a look at the size of the television in the lounge room.
Yeah.
Because most people who need debt consolidation have invariably got the 75-inch curved television sitting there because they...
The interest-only term.
Well, that's not a debt, is it?
No, it's not.
I've got a Harvey Norman card and it's 50 months, no interest, so
That's right.
I'm not going to disclose that debt.
No.
So, yeah. So it's little things like that. If they're going to allow you into their lounge room, then pay attention.
Yes.
Yep.
We're going to talk about an area that I know you're very, very passionate about, Rosco, and that is the fact find.
I love the fact find.
And, you know, when you and I were brokers, it never existed.
No.
It was quite a shock to the system for a lot of brokers when NCCP came in.
A
And
lot.
suddenly we had all of this paperwork to do, and for a lot of brokers it felt like it was a real burden. It was very cumbersome.
Yep.
But you've got a very different view about the opportunity with it.
As I mentioned earlier, one of the advantages we've now got under all our compliance matters is that we have to go away and do a preliminary assessment before we give an option. So I used to use the fact finder as a document, and I'm sorry to all those upperly mobile, young, high-tech guys, but I actually printed my fact finder off. The back page was vacant. So when I'm talking to my clients, I would make all my notes on all the various back pages of the fact finder. So when I was at school, if I did really good work, my teacher would always tick my work.
That's right.
So I knew that I'd done good. So what I always did was I would say, okay, Betty, tell me a bit about what you're hoping to do today and why and what it is you're looking for.
Yes.
So whatever she tells me or he tells me, I'd write it down.
Yeah.
Because I've seen a lot of brokers who do this going, yeah. And then they come out later to do the fact find and they ask the same question they asked an hour earlier.
Exactly.
And they're going to go, well, why didn't you listen to me?
Yeah.
This bloke's no good, he doesn't listen. So I would write things down. I wouldn't comment, just write down whatever they're telling me. Now, Mrs. Jones has always made you a cup of tea or coffee, and you've been polite and accepted. You don't have to eat the Tim Tams if you don't want to, but always make sure you drink your cuppa. So that gave me an opportunity to have a moment.
Sure.
So I would then sip my coffee or my tea. Because if you don't, when you leave the appointment, if you leave a 3/4 cup of ice cold tea, that's what she remembers. She goes, I made that bloke a cup of tea and he never even drank it. Well, you're trying to build a rapport and a friendship. So if you go to a friend's place, you all take time to drink and chat. So that was my moment to ponder. So I'd have a sip of get my pen.
Yes.
And whatever I've written down, I just do this. I would just, for those watching, I'm ticking. I would just tick and go, right. What I'm saying is, I understand what you've said. I've written it down. And I'm ticking it because I'm now very aware that those items are important to you.
Sure.
I don't need to comment. Right? Because I don't want to get into a robust debate about any of those comments.
Yeah.
If that's what the client wants, let's see if we can provide that.
Yes.
So little things of that nature. But, which leads me to the best part of the fact find, is the asset and liability statement.
Let's have a look at that.
And you've got
I have
a
got
slide
that
there,
slide, yeah.
Okay, so we all know about the houses they've got.
Sure.
We all know to fill in the addresses and the amounts and everything else. The area where I found a lot of brokers are very lax is motor vehicles.
The
So an
details.
A&L statement, is it really important? Yes, it is, but most brokers tend to gloss over it. So they might go, okay, so you've got a 2012 Commodore, and they just write it down.
Yes.
So what I would like the broker networks to start doing is go, your 2012 Commodore, how many kilometres has it done?
Right.
Okay. And what is owing on it? So you can write that over on the liability side. And they might go, oh, Bank of Melbourne 10,000. So they might have they got 5 years to go on the 10,000, or is there a balloon due shortly? Did they buy a brand new 5-year repayment with a small balloon, or what's the story? So ask the question. Very important. Kilometres are important.
Yeah.
Then the next question is obviously, and what are you driving, Mrs. Jones? So she'll tell you as well. Write it all down.
Yeah.
Now, remember I said when I first go into a house, I have a little bit of a look around.
Yeah.
So most couples will have a photo somewhere in that lounge room, dining room area of their family. So I immediately looked for that without stalking, because what I wanted to see was how much has John and Betty aged since that photo was taken. So I can easily see that it's only a couple of years ago. So there's 3 little munchkins in the picture. So the chances are they're only about 3 years older than what they were in the picture. So if Mrs. Jones is driving a 1997 Datsun Bluebird, chances are there's no ABS, there's no airbags, there's no anything at all. Okay, so allows me then the opportunity to at some stage have a discussion about their motor vehicles. So I may not be able to entice them into buying an investment property, but I may be able to encourage them to borrow some additional money to sort the motor vehicles out.
Because you know exactly when the lease is due, or when their car needs renewing or refinanced.
Absolutely.
Yep.
The other area is superannuation. So every broker that I ever spoke to hated didn't feel comfortable. Hate's probably a harsh word, but a lot of them didn't feel comfortable referring a financial planner.
Yes.
So I worked on ways to alleviate that fear and also make it relevant and pertinent. So when I rang up and said, Steph, I'm coming to see you tonight at 8 o'clock, can you have your tax returns for the last 2 years, some consecutive pay slips, bank statements, credit card statements, and some ID?
Yep.
So I'm already pre-planning the meeting. The other thing that I always ask for is, can you also bring make sure you've got your superannuation statements, because most people have got more than one superannuation policy.
They do, yes.
Okay. The reason behind that then is I would grab the superannuation statements and just write them down. 2 things I'm doing is I'm trying to see what the net worth of the policy actually is, and the other thing is I'm trying to identify how much life cover in each policy there is. Okay. So then my next step is, Stephanie, you've got 3 super policies here. I don't suppose you wanted 3 super policies, did you? Have you ever thought about talking to someone about rolling them all in? Well, everyone will go, oh, yeah, I thought about it, but I don't know what to do.
Yep.
So I can now introduce my planner and I can go, well, listen, what I'm going to do then, with your permission, I'm going to get Arthur, my Superman.
Your Superman.
Arthur's going to give you a call and Arthur's going to come and sort all that out for you.
Yep, great.
Is that fine?
Yeah.
Guess what? I've now introduced a financial planner, but the first thing we're going to focus on is the rolling in of all the super policies.
Yes.
So now I know motor vehicle and superannuation.
Sure.
Okay. Third area that a lot of us don't think about is all the debt.
Right.
Okay. So when a lot of brokers get involved, they panic with all the credit cards and all the other debt.
Yeah.
Because they immediately think, oh my gosh, that's going to affect servicing.
Sure.
Okay. Write everything down. Okay. And then when you've finished, pen down, having another sip of your cuppa, you say, listen, I notice you've got 3 credit cards, each with 10,000 limit, but amongst those you only owe $5,000. So does that mean you no longer... So when you set those credit cards up, tell me a bit about that. Because then they'll start talking to you because you're demonstrating you're their friend. Oh, well, we went to Europe, we did this, we did that, we increased. So you might be able to, at that very point, make a recommendation, well, why don't we get rid of one card?
Yes.
And why we don't dilute the credit limits on those two cards to something a little bit more normal.
Yeah.
So $2,500 each, mate. Plus we'll dilute that. So I've now gone from a $30,000 credit limit to a $5,000 credit limit. I owe $5,000, so I can now factor that into my refinancing schedule. The other thing, personal loans, much the same. People just gloss over it. They don't think about it. It's very important to focus on those extra debts because it is going to become part of your credit proposal or your recommendations moving forward.
Sure.
Okay, so do not gloss over those guys and girls. But if they tell you they've got 3 statements, make sure that you also say, now, what about that Harvey Norman card? Have you got one of those? Because we live in a world of compliance. And a lot of people do, and we joked about it before, a lot of people go to Harvey Norman and buy the big screen TV, 50 months no interest. So they don't think of that as debt.
No, that's right.
But they've got to make 50 monthly instalments of the original amount purchased.
Yep.
So, and then the card they get might only have $4,000 for the television, but there's a limit of 10 grand on the card.
That's right.
Okay, so make sure you just ask your clients if that makes any sense, because it's important for you moving forward to make your recommendations.
Yeah, absolutely. There's definitely a lot of opportunities in the fact
Oh, I
find.
love that.
You know, I think out of any industry, I mean, mortgage brokers have exposure to so much information from that one customer, don't they?
Yep.
And, you know, so through that consultation process, they're gathering all of this information. And I know you're a great believer in clients for life, so...
Got to have a customer for life. So
Exactly.
if you're only going to do one deal, then they're nothing more than a customer.
Yes.
If they then start working with you, they become a client.
Yes.
But the number one goal is we want everyone to be an advocate. That's the keynote to success.
Yeah.
Become an advocate. So are you comfortable in promoting me to your family and friends?
Yeah.
And trust me, that when that starts happening, you know you've got a very serious business.
Yeah.
So what I used to do with my clients, I wouldn't wait till settlement. I might go wait till approval, and I'd visit the client with an approval letter and my own letter of thanks and the rest of it. But I would ask my client to do 2 things. I would ask the client if they were happy to write me a reference about the experience they've had. It'd be amazing how many people are happy to do that. And I've never read a bad reference, ever.
No.
And if it isn't 100%, you just don't show anyone.
Yeah.
And the other thing that I would do is I'd ask them for the names of 5 people that they believe I can help. So I don't ask for 1, and I always ask for 5. Because guess what? Most people will then feel compelled to give you the names of 5 people. So that allows you. So when I talk to a lot of new brokers who go, look, I don't know many people. Well, you don't have to know one person.
Yeah.
They know 5 people, then those 5 people know 5 people, and before you know it, you've got an entire network.
Yes.
Yep. So hopefully those little tips today. The one last thing that is vitally important is you have to stay in touch.
Yes.
So part of that business plan is, well, what am I going to do? Because someone borrows money off you today, chances are they may not do anything for the next 4 years. So you don't want to be contacting them every month going, are you interested in another loan?
Yep.
Because they're going to go no, and they're eventually going to get sick of it. So you need to come up with some blogs or something that demonstrates to your client the value adds and all the additional things that you do. And you know, that might be that you comment the day the Reserve Bank meets.
Yes.
So the Reserve says they're on hold. Well, go back to your database tonight now and predict what's going to happen next month.
Yeah. Excellent.
So whether you're right or wrong or whatever, it doesn't matter. At least you're being seen as a knowledgeable person in the game.
And connecting.
Yep.
Before we finish up, Ross, I'm just going to move to this next slide. So I know there'll be a lot of people on this webinar today that know you, that you've helped over the years. Some of these brokers have dealt with you before, but for those that haven't, I've put your details up there.
Look, I think,
they can give you a call.
Yeah, please. And just send me a quick email. I'm very big on aggregators without borders.
Sure.
So we've got 18,000, maybe a tad more, 18,000 accredited brokers in Australia. So we in the banking and aggregation world all have a certain amount of due diligence to make sure the brokers are successful.
That's right.
So we exchange ideas. I know some fantastic people at other aggregators who make a difference in their brokers' lives.
Yeah.
And they don't just restrict themselves to. So I'm not going to restrict myself to, you've got to be part of our platform.
Yes.
If anyone contacts me, I'm going to just give you as much advice as I possibly can.
Yeah.
Just on that, and it's not a prepaid advertisement, but any broker out there who's not a member of Finance and Coffee, which is a Facebook group, please, I cannot express this loudly enough, please become a member of Finance and Coffee. Because if you've been in an appointment and you've left the appointment at 9:30 at night and you're driving home, I can assure you your wife doesn't care, the dog doesn't care, and your kids don't care what happened. They don't care.
Yeah.
So you're going to be home, you're hyped, you're excitable, and your brain won't slow down. If you're a member of Finance and Coffee, you can now at least send out a blurb at 10 o'clock at night going, has anyone had this situation? I can assure you there's a lot of brokers still up.
Yes.
And someone will respond. So you're not alone.
Absolutely. And I think we can just move off this slide now.
Yep.
Before we finish off. But just getting back to that point, Rosco, it can be a very lonely life being a mortgage broker.
I used to call it, I run training programs, and I used to call it the loneliness of a long distance runner. Let's go back to what I said before about the business plan. Okay, so I've got one more piece of advice and then we'll let everyone off for the rest of the day. So when you do a business plan, don't just put it in the drawer and go, I'm really good, I've done a business plan.
Yep.
Make yourself accountable. So if you've drawn a business plan up and if your partner is your spouse or your significant other, then tell them, show them, and ask them to make you accountable.
Yep.
Secondly, talk to your accountant.
Yes.
Tell them what you're planning to do. Okay, because they then might be able to give some tax advice if that 40% increase in revenue does happen. But tell them and ask them to help make you accountable.
Absolutely.
And then thirdly, talk to your BDM at your aggregator and tell them what you're planning to do.
Yep.
Make yourself accountable, because I meet a lot of brokers who go, look, I go to the PD day and no one knows who I am and no one speaks to me. Well, I'm sorry, but aggregator BDMs look after 400 or 500 people, if not more. So it's common sense that they're going to gravitate more towards those proactive brokers rather than those seen just sitting on their hands.
Yep.
So one thing you can do is make sure in FY18 you create a business plan. Ring your BDM if there's not a PD day coming up. Ring your BDM and ask him when he's next in the area to shout you a cup of coffee. Show them your business plan. Show them that you're serious.
Yep.
And then, more importantly, ask the BDM to make you accountable. And as I said before, there are some sensational BDMs within the aggregation game
Absolutely.
out there who all they want to do is help you achieve your goals. But if we don't know, as BDM aggregators, if we don't know what your dreams and goals are, how can we help?
That's right. And there's oftentimes great resources and teams within those aggregators that aren't always
A lot of brokers are
utilised.
unaware what an aggregator can do
Yes.
to help them achieve their goals.
Yes.
Because it's just an assumption, oh yeah, all my aggregator does is link me to a bank.
Correct.
They do a hell of a lot more than that. And I've worked with most of the good aggregators in my time and always had enormous support. So, yeah. We're all here for you guys and girls, so just let us know if anything we can do to help.
Great. Well, Rosco, that's been a fantastic chat. And
40 years.
40 years. And I know there's lots we can talk about, so
there's so much.
we'd like to get together.
How do you put that in an hour? I don't know, but with your permission, I'd love to be able to come back and do some more intricate means of doing things.
We would love that, and we'd love people's feedback as well.
Yep,
to let us
please.
know what topics they would like
so
covered.
if you think it's been absolute rubbish, thanks. But just send me through a note on what areas you would love being discussed.
Yes.
And we'll put a platform together for you. Or if it's something really just finely tuned down to you specifically, let me know and I'll certainly give you a call. I noticed on Finance and Coffee the other day there was a request for people who had a template on maybe marketing material.
Sure.
So, rightly or wrongly, I said, well, that's fantastic, you want a template. However, don't dilute your own brand. Tell your clients about you. Why would you use a template of someone else's?
Yeah.
What do you want to achieve? What is the point of sending out something? What's the hook?
Yes.
And what message do you want to get across? And only you can give your message.
Yeah.
So, yeah, look, I probably wouldn't go and grab off the shelf a preordained template. I would be individual enough to create my own.
Yeah.
We've all got our different personalities. Most of the people out there couldn't try and replicate me, just like I couldn't try and replicate them.
You're one
You've
of
got to
a
be
kind,
yourself.
Rosco.
But you've got to be yourself.
Sure. Yeah.
And people sense if you're not being yourself.
Yeah.
They've met you, they've spoken to you. So if you want to create some sort of marketing collateral where you can touch base in 6 months' time or 9 months' time, create your own.
Yes.
Why are you doing it? Ask yourself that question. Why am I doing this? And what do I want to say?
Yep.
And I'm telling you now that every broker out there will go, oh, well, I want to say this.
Yep.
Okay, say it. So never be frightened that you don't have the ability to promote yourself.
Yeah.
Yep.
Being authentic and congruent.
Yep. Yep. So I never wrote Ross Laurenson on anything. So from 1978 onwards, I just put Rosco on everything. Signed Rosco, promoted it as Rosco, because I knew that people would remember Rosco, but how many people would remember Ross Laurenson? And that was the reasoning for doing it.
Yeah. The personal brand.
Personal brand, yeah. So it doesn't matter whether you work on your own or you work with a group or one of the big sub-aggregator groups or the groups like Aussie where I cut my teeth in that. Even when I was at Aussie, I still promoted Rosco. Does that make sense?
Yeah, totally.
Okay. Thanks, guys. It's been fun.
Thank you, Rosco, and we'll catch up in the next couple of weeks.
I'm sure
and have
everyone's
another
looking
chat.
forward
It will be. Thank you for
later.
joining us today. Bye-bye.
Cheers.